That's where the Anunnaki come into play, right?
Yeah.
And you made a whole series about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anunnaki, Ancient Secrets Revealed. Amazing series, sold out in Regal cinemas all over the country, everywhere we went. And this series goes into breaking down what happened in the ancient past based on ancient text, scriptures, papyruses, and cylinder scrolls from all around the world, and also ancient handed-down verbal indigenous cultures, verbal handed-down histories for thousands of years. So it breaks it down in a way that we can analyze it and begin to make our own educated decisions on what we think may have happened in the ancient past and the connections between those beings and us.
Do you think that hominid brain they found could have been Anunnaki, the one with the big skull?
I believe so. The skull was massive. I just posted it on X the other day. This skull is so incredibly massive, and it's not from skull binding. So with skull binding, which happens, now skull binding is where some groups of indigenous cultures will take and wrap the child's head very tightly and bind it so that as it grows, the head becomes more shaped like a cone. They were doing this to honor the gods. Well, what did they see and what influenced them to do this? Only the royalty in those particular civilizations, those indigenous cultures, were able to do this, which tells us, oh, this is a marker. In the past, there was somebody else here that had heads like this, and we're revering them and calling them, the chosen ones, or the kings or the queens or the rulers, or whatever term they want to use, and we're going to imitate them because we are now those people. We have that bloodline. Now, when you look into the ones that are naturally formed like that, not by skull binding, they have more CC capacity for brain, for cranial space than a human being. When you do skull binding, you reduce the cranial capacity. When you don't do skull binding and you have a natural elong like the Paracas skulls and so forth, they have more brain mass and bigger jawbones, meaning these people were massive, they were huge, and they had huge brains. A lot of the Egyptian motif with those elongated caps, when you go to the Egyptian Museum of Civilization, and you go into the area where you can't take photos or videos, even if you try to use the glasses that have it, they'll take you to jail.
Wow.
To take the glasses away, delete the footage and everything from your device, because they have the elongated skulls in there.
Damn.
Of the mummies, and you can see why they had to have those special hats that fit on that angle, because their skulls were elongated and they weren't binded. Also, some of these skulls that have been discovered and that have this massive skull capacity, they have different number of parietal plates. So that means they're non-human, which is incredible. Some have had DNA testing, and some come up human, and some DNA in them come up non-human or unidentifiable. So there's a lot of research going on in this topic.
That's interesting.
And Brian Forster is like the foremost world leader in the Paracas skulls and these elongated skulls, and he has his own elongated skull museum in Peru.
That's cool. I want to visit that one day.
Yeah, I'll take in some people to go see that museum probably in June or July of this year.
Nice. We'll link it below. So giants might have existed in the past then.
Yeah, I believe so. Everywhere you look in all the ancient cultures and the indigenous cultures of the North Americas, they talk about these giants. They had to even battle them and try to kill them because these giants were ravaging them and everything else, right? You talk about the peoples of the Sumeria, Mesopotamia, right? They talk about these megalithic giants, these huge beings that walked amongst them. You look into areas of Africa, you find that they had the giants there as well. Tahuti, Jehuti, the Netiru, these Netters, Thoth and Ra and Horus and Osiris and all these beings, they were supposed to be massive beings. And they were always depicted as being very massive as well. And even in a lot of the religious texts, you find that they talk about giants in there. They call them Nephilim, right? These were massive beings with a high level of intelligence. And also they said in the ancient texts of the Mesopotamian era, they call them the Anuna, and then later they call them the Anunnaki. But in the biblical text, they call them the Anak, A-N-A-K. And they say we were grasshoppers in their eyesight.
Jeez, they were that big?
Yeah. So we're talking super massive beings that were walking on this planet at one point in time.
Crazy. Any mention of dragons in these ancient texts?
In some of the Asian texts, you discover mentions of dragons, and also some of the Mexican texts. Now, in some of the texts, it does sound dragon like a real dragon, like with fire-breathing dragon. What's interesting, though, is when I look at the text from the Mexican text, which goes back really into a lot of the Mayan stuff, they talk about beings flying in on a dragon. So these beings would ride the dragon And the way they describe the dragon and how it landed and everything else, it sounds like a technological device.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't sound like a real dragon we've seen in cartoons and movies. It sounds like something technical, like a device, a flying device that they would get on or get into, and it would take off and it would fly away or come back. Quetzalcoatl arrived on the back of a dragon. Wang Di, the first emperor of China, he arrived on the back of a dragon as well.
Interesting.
And he taught the people language and civilization and all that stuff, technologies, and organized their civilization. And he stayed for a few hundred years, and then he disappeared on the back of a dragon.
Holy crap. He lived that long?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, Thoth the Atlantean, according to the ancient Egyptians, Thoth from ancient Kemet, before it was called Egypt, he ruled over them for 16,000 years. And then the Sumerian kings list, you have people that ruled for 36,000 years, 28,800 years, 16,000. I mean, the numbers are, the lifespans have to be unbelievable.
Yeah. They had some really advanced health technology back then.
They had to have something because they had something called the elixir of life that they would take. It was for the savants or the heroes of old, and it was for the healing of their bodies. They had rejuvenation chambers. They had all these different technologies, I believe, that allowed them to extend their lifespan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode.